Every morning when you rise, you're not just waking up, you're setting the tone for how the world gets to treat you. Before the noise of the world creeps in, before the messages, emails, demands, or doubts, I own my energy. I decide where it flows, how it's spent, and who gets access to it. Every single day, from the moment I open my eyes, that truth must live in me, because if I don't take control of my energy, someone else will. If I don't protect it, life will drain it. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about being aware that my energy is currency, its value. It's what I bring into every room, every relationship, every goal I chase, and every boundary I enforce. The truth is, we've been taught to give too freely, our time, our emotions, our attention. We wake up already behind, already overwhelmed, already pouring from a cup that was never refilled. That's not strength. That's self-neglect dressed up as sacrifice. There is nothing noble about allowing your energy to be manipulated, wasted, or abused. You don't owe your light to people who dim it. You don't have to entertain chaos just because it's loud. You don't have to explain your peace to people committed to misunderstanding it. And you absolutely don't have to shrink your spirit to make others feel comfortable in their own confusion. Owning your energy means knowing that not every invitation deserves your RSVP. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every sad story is your responsibility to fix. Sometimes you have to say no without guilt. Sometimes you have to walk away without apology. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is choose silence over reaction, distance over drama, and stillness over stimulation. That's not weakness, it's emotional intelligence. And it takes maturity to realize that protecting your energy doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're self-aware. There will always be someone pulling at you, wanting more of you than they're willing to give. Someone who drains you but calls it love. Someone who competes with your peace but calls it friendship. Someone who thrives in dysfunction and calls it connection. But when you own your energy, you don't dance with dysfunction. You don't explain yourself to chaos. You simply remove access, not out of hate, but out of necessity, because healing taught you that not everyone is meant to walk beside the version of you that chooses peace over performance. You become untouchable when you learn to regulate your energy, not because nothing affects you, but because you decide what's worth your emotional investment. You observe more, react less. You're not emotionally unavailable, you're emotionally discerning. That's the difference. You still care, but you care with boundaries. You love, but not at your own expense. You give, but not until you're empty. That's the power of ownership. That's the strength of someone who's done the work. Owning your energy also means understanding that how you show up in the world is a reflection of how you manage your internal world. Your habits, your mindset, your boundaries, the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Are you refilling your spirit? Are you protecting your peace? Or are you surviving on autopilot, hoping one more coffee, one more distraction, one more conversation will fix the fatigue that only stillness can solve? You have to stop waiting for the world to give you permission to prioritize yourself. No one's coming to rescue you from burnout. No one's handing you a blueprint for boundaries. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it can be lonely. But the freedom that comes from energy ownership is priceless. The peace that comes from not reacting to everything is transformational, and the confidence that grows from honoring your space is undeniable. So when you wake up tomorrow, remind yourself, you're not here to survive your day. You're here to own it. Your presence is a privilege, not a product. Your energy is sacred, not something to be spent recklessly. You don't need validation to know your worth. You don't need chaos to feel alive. You need alignment. You need clarity. You need peace. And peace requires discipline. You own your energy. That means you get to protect it, direct it, and invest it in what grows you, not what drains you. And once you truly understand that, everything begins to change. I am unshakable. That doesn't mean I don't feel fear, pain, or uncertainty. It means that even when the ground beneath me trembles, I don't collapse. I adapt, I bend, but I do not break. The world can throw storms, chaos, rejection, and disappointment at me. But I do not disappear in the face of adversity. I rise with it. I carry my scars with pride, not shame, because every scar is proof that I survived something meant to destroy me. My strength isn't in pretending to be unaffected. It's in knowing that nothing can take away who I am at my core. There will be moments when people doubt me, misunderstand me, or try to silence me. Let them. Their perception is not my reality. Their noise does not dictate my inner calm. I have nothing to prove to anyone who's already made up their mind. I don't shrink for approval, and I don't beg for recognition. My value isn't based on how comfortable I make others feel. My worth is internal, built from the ground up, layered with every challenge I overcame, every tear I dried alone, every night I kept fighting when it would have been easier to give up. I don't need anyone to validate my power. I embody it. To be unshakable is to be rooted in truth, not image, not performance, not popularity, but truth, and truth doesn't flinch under pressure. It doesn't dissolve when criticized. It stands firm, even when people throw shade, even when they twist the story, even when they expect you to fall apart. There's a quiet kind of strength in not reacting to every provocation, in standing tall while the world tests your limits. You don't have to yell to be powerful. You don't have to fight every battle. You just have to know who you are and stay grounded in it, no matter who tries to uproot you. People often confuse silence with weakness. They think if you're calm, you're passive. If you're not loud, you must be uncertain. But there is a kind of silence that is louder than any scream. A silence that says, I don't owe you my energy. That's what being unshakable feels like. You walk into the fire and come out more refined, not burned. You don't allow your circumstances to define your response. You decide how you move, how you think, and how you show up, and you do it all from a place of quiet control. You can't be unshakable if you're still chasing approval. You can't be unshakable if you depend on external validation. You become unshakable the moment you stop outsourcing your self-worth. You don't need to be the loudest in the room to hold presence. Your energy speaks before you say a word. It's in your eyes, your posture, your discipline, the way you say no without explanation, the way you walk away from what no longer aligns. That's unshakable confidence. Not arrogance, not ego, just a grounded knowing that you don't need to beg to belong. There will be seasons that test you, people who walk away, plans that fall apart, but the unshakable person doesn't crumble. They reset. They learn, they get still, and then they return. Stronger, wiser, clearer. They don't look for revenge. They look for peace. They don't waste time on what can't be controlled. They focus on what they can. Their attitude, their effort, their direction. Being unshakable isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's about choosing what deserves your reaction and what deserves your silence. You become a force when you learn to sit with your pain and not let it control you. When you walk through rejection and know it's redirection, when you are betrayed but refuse to let bitterness define you, you become untouchable when you realize that everything that tried to break you only made you more focused, more intentional, more resilient. That's the version of you the world wasn't ready for. That's the version that doesn't need applause because peace is loud enough. You don't have to explain yourself to people who never had the depth to understand you in the first place. You don't have to convince anyone of your strength. Just be. Be the person who shows up even when it's hard, who speaks softly but carries power in every step, who refuses to fold even when pressure tries to crush them. That's unshakable. That's rare. And once you discover that version of yourself, you'll never go back to who you used to be. My words create my reality. Every sentence I speak, every phrase I repeat, and every thought I give a voice to is a brick in the foundation of my future. It's not just language, it's manifestation. It's intention turned into direction. When I speak, I'm not just communicating, I'm casting a vision. I'm shaping the energy around me. I'm defining what I expect, what I believe, and what I allow. And the moment I start speaking life over myself, even when I feel broken, everything begins to shift. The most powerful voice in my life is my own, not the critics, not the doubters, not the noise of the world. My voice has the authority to build me up or break me down. That's why I'm intentional with how I speak about myself, my goals, and my journey. If I keep telling myself I'm tired, I'll stay exhausted. If I keep saying I'm stuck, I'll stay limited. If I keep talking about what I lack, I'll keep reinforcing scarcity. But when I start affirming growth, purpose, and progress, my mind adjusts, my actions align. My world changes because the subconscious doesn't argue, it follows what I declare. Words are commands. When I say I can't, I'm giving my mind permission to quit. When I say I'm not good enough, I'm training my spirit to settle. But when I choose to speak strength, even if my voice shakes, I interrupt the cycle. I choose to be the author of a new narrative, one where I rise even when it's hard, one where I believe in possibility more than past pain, one where I speak victory long before I see it, because faith often sounds like a whisper before it becomes a roar. I don't speak what I see, I speak what I want to see. That's where transformation begins. Speaking confidence when I feel fear, speaking peace when I feel chaos, speaking healing when I still feel broken. That's not delusion, that's discipline. That's choosing to set the tone for my day, not just respond to it. The words I choose in the morning echo throughout everything I touch. If I say today will be powerful, I'll walk into it with power. If I say I'm capable, I'll face the challenge with courage. My words are not decorations, they're directions. I've learned that I can't just speak carelessly and expect clarity. I can't keep saying, I'm always unlucky, and then wonder why I keep missing opportunities. I can't complain about every inconvenience and expect joy to stick around. Negativity may feel honest in the moment, but it becomes heavy when I repeat it. And over time, that weight doesn't just live in my words, it lives in my mind, my relationships, and my decisions. So I choose to speak light. Not because I'm blind to reality, but because I'm committed to shifting it. When I speak gratitude, my world expands. When I speak strength, my fears shrink. When I speak purpose, my distractions lose power. And when I speak boundaries, my peace returns. My words are my tools, and I can either use them to build a life that reflects my truth or tear down my potential before it has a chance to bloom. Every time I speak doubt, I delay my own growth. But every time I speak belief, I activate a part of myself that refuses to stay small. I've learned to be mindful of how I speak about myself in front of others, because every self-deprecating joke chips away at the strength I've built. Every time I say I'm just not good enough, even if I smile through it, my spirit hears it, and it begins to question what I once knew. That's why I don't let anyone, not even myself, speak limitation over my future. I correct my inner voice the way I'd protect someone I love, with compassion, but with conviction, because I deserve to speak to myself like I matter, because I do. So I speak life, I speak truth, I speak power. Even when I'm tired, even when I'm doubting, even when I feel like the mountain is too high, because the more I speak my vision, the more real it becomes. The more I align my language with who I'm becoming, the more unstoppable I feel. I don't wait for proof, I speak it into being, because I know this. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds, and the future I desire is waiting on the words I dare to plant today. I will not shrink to fit anyone's comfort. I will not silence my voice, dull my light, or mold myself into a version that makes others feel more secure about their own limitations. I was not created to be small. I was not born to blend in. I was built with power, with intention, with something to offer this world that no one else can replicate. And if that power intimidates someone, then so be it. I wasn't meant to be palatable, I was meant to be real. There is nothing noble about shrinking to be accepted. There is nothing brave about downplaying your intelligence, your beauty, your strength, or your ambition to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. That isn't humility, that's self-abandonment, and every time you do it, a part of you dies a little. A part of your spirit starts to wonder if you were ever truly allowed to take up space, but you are. Not only allowed, destined. The world may not always welcome it, but your greatness doesn't need permission to exist. It's not your job to make others feel comfortable with what they haven't healed in themselves. If your confidence feels like arrogance to them, that's not your burden to carry. If your boldness feels threatening, that's their insecurity speaking, not your cue to dim down. You are not responsible for making yourself less so others can feel more. You don't need to apologize for evolving. You don't need to make yourself smaller so someone else doesn't feel left behind. Growth is not arrogance, ambition is not selfish, and visibility is not vanity. You were meant to be seen. You were meant to take up space physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You were meant to walk into rooms with your head held high and your soul unapologetically intact. You were meant to speak your truth even when it trembles. You were meant to challenge norms, to push past limits, to show others what's possible when you stop asking for approval and start owning who you are. That doesn't make you too much. It makes you powerful. Too many people spend their lives editing themselves, trimming pieces off here, lowering their voice there, hiding their brilliance just to be tolerated by people who were never worthy of their fullness in the first place. But tolerance is not the same as love. Silence is not the same as peace. Acceptance that comes at the cost of authenticity is not acceptance, it's manipulation. And you don't have to accept that. You can choose to walk away. You can choose to rise. You can choose to honor who you are, even if no one claps for it. The world doesn't change when you fit in. The world changes when you show up fully, when you stop waiting for the perfect time to be yourself and start showing up now, flawed, growing, honest, whole. There is power in that. There is healing in that. You teach others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. So when you stop shrinking, when you start speaking up, when you let your presence be felt without apology, you send a message not just to others, but to yourself that you are worthy of being here. People will try to convince you to shrink because they can't handle your full light. Let them try, but don't let them win. You weren't put here to fit in the mold of someone else's insecurity. You were put here to break molds, to stand tall in a world that benefits from your silence, to live out loud in a society that profits from your fear. And when you do, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror of possibility. You become a beacon for those still hiding in the shadows of their own fear. You do not owe anyone a watered-down version of yourself. You don't need to be less intense, less emotional, less ambitious, or less honest just to make others feel okay with your presence. You are allowed to be loud. You are allowed to be passionate. You are allowed to take up space with your dreams, your voice, your truth. And the ones who are meant for you will never ask you to be less. They'll respect your fullness. They'll celebrate your strength. They'll rise with you, not recoil from your light. So stand tall, speak boldly, live truthfully. You are not made to shrink. You are made to expand. What I tolerate, I accept. Every time I stay silent in the face of disrespect, every time I let someone cross a boundary without correction, every time I pretend I'm okay with something that truly bothers me, I teach the world how to treat me. I may not say the words out loud, but my tolerance speaks for me. It says, this is fine. It says, you can keep doing this. And over time, those little compromises don't stay small. They grow roots. They shape my reality. They become my standard. There's a cost to staying quiet. There's a weight that builds when you keep absorbing what doesn't sit right with your spirit. At first, you may justify it. You may tell yourself it's not worth the fight, that it's easier to just move on, that you don't want to stir the waters. But peace that comes from avoiding discomfort isn't peace, it's suppression. And suppressed truth always finds a way to rise, often in the form of resentment, exhaustion, or loss of self-respect. Boundaries are not built by words alone. They are enforced by action. You can say you don't like how someone treats you, but if you keep allowing it, your actions say otherwise. The world doesn't respond to what we wish we had. It responds to what we accept. And the moment you tolerate being treated as less, that becomes the standard. Not because you deserve it, but because you've allowed it. Tolerance becomes permission, and permission becomes a pattern. Every relationship you're in, whether personal or professional, is shaped by what you continue to allow. If someone continually disrespects you, and you make excuses for them, they learn that you'll tolerate it. If a friend only shows up when it's convenient for them, and you still pour into them without reciprocation, you've silently agreed to being a second priority. If a job overworks you, underpays you, and you stay without setting a boundary, you've told them your well-being is negotiable. And maybe it started with one moment, one time you bit your tongue, one time you let it slide, one time you said, it's fine, when you were really hurting, but that one time turns into a habit, that habit becomes your normal. And then one day, you look around and realize you've created a life that doesn't reflect your worth. It reflects your tolerance, and that realization stings. But it's also your wake-up call, because what you tolerate today becomes your tomorrow. You teach others how to treat you by what you accept, but you also teach yourself who you are by what you demand. When you start raising your standards, when you stop making room for disrespect, when you walk away from people and places that drain your spirit, you send a message, not just to the world, but to yourself, that you are no longer available for anything less than what aligns with your truth. And that shift is powerful. It's uncomfortable, but it's liberating. Saying no doesn't make you harsh. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. Speaking up doesn't make you dramatic. It makes you honest. It makes you someone who values their own peace more than the illusion of harmony. And yes, it may change who stays in your life, but better to stand alone in truth than be surrounded by people who only love you when you stay silent. There's courage in saying, "I won't tolerate this anymore." There's strength in walking away from what you once accepted. And there's transformation in realizing that nothing will change until you demand that it does. Change doesn't start with them. It starts with you, with one decision, with one boundary, with one moment of truth. Your standards are not too high when they reflect your healing. Your boundaries are not too strong when they protect your peace. The right people will meet you there not because you forced them to, but because they respect the version of you who finally refused to settle. So when the moment comes, and it always does, when you feel your spirit resist what your mouth is about to tolerate, pause. Choose yourself, speak up, step back, say no, because what you tolerate, you accept, and what you accept becomes the reality you live in. Courage isn't loud. It doesn't always look like bold declarations or public victories. It's not always standing on a stage, shouting your truth, or leading a crowd. Sometimes courage is quiet. It's the soft voice that whispers, "Try again tomorrow," after a day that drained everything from you. It's the strength to get out of bed when your heart is heavy and your hope feels thin. It's the silent decision to keep moving forward, even when the path is uncertain and no one is cheering you on. Real courage often goes unnoticed. It's found in the quiet moments, in the battles no one sees. It's in the forgiveness you offer when the apology never came. It's in the way you keep showing up for people who would never know how much it costs you. It's in the way you hold your ground without yelling, in the way you protect your peace without explanation, and in the way you love without expecting anything back. There's something sacred about quiet courage. It doesn't demand to be seen, but its presence is undeniable. The world glorifies noise. It celebrates loud victories, big achievements, and constant visibility. But there's a different kind of power in choosing not to perform for others, in knowing you're enough, even if no one notices your progress. That kind of courage doesn't need validation. It doesn't wait for applause. It's rooted in self-trust. It's the decision to keep going, even when everything inside you is screaming to stop. It's wiping your tears, squaring your shoulders, and facing the world again. Not because it's easy, but because you refuse to quit. Courage is sitting with your pain without trying to numb it. It's having the conversation you've been avoiding. It's saying no when you're expected to say yes. It's walking away from what you've outgrown, even if it's comfortable. It's telling the truth when a lie would be easier. It's choosing healing over hiding. None of those things come with applause. They come with discomfort, with resistance, and often with solitude. But they are acts of immense bravery. There's courage in the way you love again after being broken, in the way you trust after betrayal, in the way you let people in, even with scars that haven't fully healed. That's not weakness, it's resilience. It's the quiet courage of the heart, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. The kind that says, "I know who I am, even when the world forgets." That's the courage that builds character. That's the kind of courage that sustains you through seasons of doubt, loss, and transformation. Sometimes courage is doing nothing at all. It's choosing stillness over reaction. It's staying calm when you're provoked. It's not proving your point to someone who's determined not to understand you. It's walking away, not because you're afraid, but because you've outgrown the need to fight every battle. That kind of courage is misunderstood by many, but deeply known by those who have learned that peace is more valuable than being right. Courage is quiet because it's internal. It's not for show. It doesn't need to be broadcast to be real. The strongest people often carry their battles silently. You might pass them on the street and never know the wars they've won just by getting through another day. And that's the beauty of courage. It's personal. It doesn't need a stage to matter. It matters in the way it helps someone survive, grow, and find meaning again. The loudest person in the room isn't always the bravest. The one who makes the most noise isn't always the strongest. True strength lies in restraint, in patience, in being grounded enough to not let your emotions lead your every move. It's easy to react. It's harder to reflect. It's easy to shout. It takes strength to stay still and respond with intention. Courage isn't loud, but it's consistent. It shows up day after day without needing recognition. It's present in the small choices, the kind that build a life of integrity and depth. It lives in the quiet mornings when you choose growth over comfort. It breathes in the silent prayers whispered in the dark. It lives in your ability to keep your heart open, even after life tried to harden it. So no, courage doesn't have to roar. Sometimes it's just the steady beat of a heart that refuses to stop, the quiet conviction that no matter how hard it gets, you will keep showing up for your purpose, for your peace, for yourself.